My name is Chloe. I'm 25 years old. Today I'm going to talk about the day that my dad forbade me from going to my mom's birthday. Then my mom's friend looked at me and said, "Hi, boss. It's a pleasure to have you here. Stay tuned until the end and tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far my story has gone. And click on like, subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss the next stories here on the channel." I never understood why my dad hated my mom so much. He never said it out loud, but his face changed every time her name was mentioned. It was like something inside him turned to ice. Growing up, all I knew about her was that she left when I was little. That's what he always said. She walked away. Left you like you were nothing. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I was just a kid, and he was the only parent I had. My stepmother, Carla, never said much about it either. She was always polite, detached, like a woman who had accepted her role but didn't want to get involved in anything before her time. I learned early not to ask questions. My dad didn't like questions. But something shifted the year I turned 25. Maybe it was the way my life felt stuck, like I was waiting for something that never came. Maybe it was the dreams, memories maybe, that started coming back. A soft voice singing to me. A warm hand brushing my hair. Or maybe it was just me getting tired of being treated like a child in a home that didn't feel like mine anymore. I was scrolling through Facebook late one night, half asleep and not expecting anything, when I saw her. A tagged photo from a mutual friend I didn't recognize. At a birthday party somewhere in Santa Rosa. There she was. My mother. Olivia. Her smile was unmistakable. She hadn't changed much. Same sharp cheekbones, same curls. And then I saw the caption. "Happy 50th Liv." I stared at that screen for what felt like forever. My mother was alive. She was nearby. And she was celebrating. The next morning, I brought it up at breakfast, pretending it was nothing. I asked as casually as I could if my mom still lived in Santa Rosa. My dad dropped his fork. "Why do you want to know that?" I shrugged. "Just wondering. Her birthday was yesterday, right?" His eyes narrowed. "Who told you that?" I didn't answer. He leaned forward. "Listen to me, Chloe. You stay away from her. You hear me? That woman. She doesn't deserve you. She gave you up. You think she cares about your birthday? She forgot about you the second she walked out." Carla stayed silent, her eyes glued to her plate. I felt something break inside me. Not rage. Not even sadness. Just a crack, like the first break in a frozen lake. I nodded, said nothing. But my decision was made. The next Saturday, I drove to the address I found online. It was a little house, painted yellow, with a white fence and flowers in the yard. There were balloons on the porch. I parked a block away and walked, my heart pounding. I kept thinking, what if she doesn't recognize me? What if she tells me to go away? But that's not what happened. The door was open. People milled around with drinks and food, chatting, laughing. I walked up the steps and paused at the entrance. No one noticed me at first. Then a woman, tall, elegant, maybe in her 60s, turned and looked right at me. Her eyes widened. "Hi, boss," she said softly, almost reverently. The noise around us kept going, but I felt like the world stopped. I didn't know what she meant. I hadn't said a word. Then I saw her. My mother. She was standing by a table with a cake. She looked up, and when our eyes met, she dropped the knife she was holding. It clattered on the floor. Her hands flew to her mouth. "Chloe," she whispered. I couldn't speak. She crossed the room in seconds and hugged me like she was drowning and I was the air. Her body shook against mine. I stood there frozen, unsure of what I was supposed to feel. People around us were staring. Someone started crying. Someone else whispered, "Is that her daughter?" We went inside, away from the crowd. She led me to a small room in the back, an office maybe. We sat on the couch. She kept holding my hands, touching my face like she couldn't believe I was real. "I've waited for this day every year," she said. Her voice cracked. "I didn't know if you were alive. I didn't know if you hated me. He told me you left," I said. My voice sounded small. "That you didn't want me." She broke down. Not the loud, dramatic kind of crying. The silent kind. The kind that shakes your whole body. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a box. Inside were dozens of letters. All addressed to me. I sent these every year, she said. Birthdays. Holidays. Random Tuesdays when I missed you too much. They were all returned. Undeliverable. He never let me see you, Chloe. I fought. I fought in court, I begged. But she stopped and covered her face. I looked down at the letters. Some were decorated. Some had photos. There was one from my 7th birthday. A card with a unicorn and a note inside. I hope you love purple. You used to love purple. I couldn't breathe. I had lived 25 years thinking I was unwanted. And now, sitting in that tiny room with my mother's trembling hands clutching mine, I realized that wasn't true. Everything I thought I knew had just been turned upside down. And I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't go home that night. I told my mom, Olivia, that I needed some time to think, and she gave me a guest room upstairs, no questions asked. It was small but warm. Lived in. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the box of letters again. Some were unopened, but I couldn't bring myself to read them yet. I was scared of what I might feel. Downstairs, the party continued for a while. I stayed in the room, listening to the laughter, the clinking of glasses, and every now and then someone saying, "I can't believe she came." Eventually it got quiet. Olivia knocked gently on the door and poked her head in. "I made tea. Do you want to sit a bit?" I nodded. We sat in the kitchen, just the two of us, a pot of chamomile between us. She didn't push. She didn't flood me with explanations. She just asked about my life, what I studied, what kind of work I was doing, what I liked. Her voice was careful, like she didn't want to break whatever fragile connection had just reformed between us. She said one thing that stuck with me. "You don't have to forgive me tonight. Or ever. I just want you to know you were never forgotten. Not for a second." I went to bed without saying much more, but I left the door cracked open. The next morning, I texted Carla and told her I was safe. I didn't say where I was and she didn't ask. She just replied, "Thank you." My dad called an hour later. I didn't answer. I spent most of the morning walking around the neighborhood. Olivia's neighbors smiled at me like they knew who I was. One woman even waved and said, "Glad you're home." I smiled back, but my stomach twisted. That afternoon, Olivia showed me a photo album. My baby pictures were in there. Some I recognized, copies of the ones my dad kept at home. But there were others I'd never seen. Me at 2 years old, covered in spaghetti. Me napping on Olivia's chest. Me laughing on a swing. "He let you take these?" I asked. She shook her head. These were from before. The first years, when we were still, before the custody battle. I didn't want to ask, but I needed to know. What happened? Why did he get custody? She looked down at her hands. Because he had money. A good lawyer. And because I had postpartum depression. Severe. He used it against me. Claimed I was unstable. That I disappeared when I was actually in treatment. I felt something heavy sink in my chest. I thought about the times he'd told me, "Your mother couldn't handle being a mom." I thought about how I believed him. "I fought for you, Chloe. For years. I lost everything trying to get you back. I only stopped when the court said it was harming you to keep reopening the case. That's when I started sending letters instead. Just hoping you'd see one." He never showed me any of them. She nodded like she already knew. I figured. Later that evening, as we were cleaning up after dinner, Olivia's friend, the one who called me boss, came by. Her name was Carmen. She was warm, blunt, and seemed to know everything. "I always said you'd find your way back," she said, hugging me like we were old friends. "You were born with that fire in your eyes. Just like your mom." "Why did you call me boss?" I asked. She grinned. "Because technically you are. Olivia started the cafe chain in your name. She put it in a trust when you were born. It was the only way to protect something for you in case. You were never allowed back." I blinked. "Wait, what?" Olivia stepped in. "It's true. I wanted you to have something. Something that couldn't be taken. I never told anyone outside our circle. So, I own part of a business. You own all of it. I've just been running it for you until now." I didn't know what to say. I felt a mix of emotions, shock, confusion, a strange kind of guilt. I didn't come here for that. I whispered. I know, she said. But it's yours anyway. I lay awake most of that night, staring at the ceiling. The anger at my dad burned deeper now. He hadn't just kept me from my mother. He'd kept me from my identity. From a life that had been quietly waiting for me all this time. He'd built a world on lies, and I had lived inside it. Now that world was crumbling, and I had no idea what I was supposed to do next. What would you do if it were you? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe and activate the bell to receive all notifications so you don't miss the next story. I didn't go back to my dad's house for over a week. I couldn't. Every time I thought about facing him, I felt a surge of something close to panic. Not fear, something heavier. Betrayal maybe. Or the sudden, bitter realization that he'd shaped my life around his own wounds. Carla texted a few times. Just simple messages. Your dad's worried. Dinner's quiet without you. Do you need anything? I didn't answer until the 6th day. I just wrote. I'm okay. I wasn't, not really. Olivia gave me space. She didn't ask if I was staying. She didn't push me to forgive. Some mornings we had coffee and talked about small things. Other days I barely left my room. She never made me feel like I was a burden. That alone was healing in a way I hadn't expected. But eventually I knew I had to go back, if only to get the rest of my things. I arrived on a Thursday afternoon. The house looked smaller somehow. Quieter. Carla opened the door before I even knocked. She hugged me quickly and stepped aside. He's upstairs. Been in a mood since you left. I tried to talk to him, but I nodded. I just need to pack. She followed me into my room. It was exactly how I'd left it, except cleaner. Too clean. Like someone had tried to erase the memory of me. He thought you'd be back in a day or two, she said softly. I'm not. She looked down. I figured. As I folded my clothes, my dad's voice came from the hallway. So this is it, huh? You run off to that woman and now you're done with us. I turned slowly. He was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, face tight. Her name is Olivia, I said. And she's my mother. His jaw tightened. She abandoned you. No, she didn't. You lied. You think you know everything now? You don't know what it was like. She was unstable. She had postpartum depression. I snapped. You used it against her. You took me away. And then you made sure I'd never find out. Carla stepped between us. Maybe this isn't the time. No, I said. It's exactly the time. He stared at me. I raised you. I gave you everything. And now you're turning your back on me. You didn't give me the truth. That's all I ever wanted. There was a long pause. His face shifted. Rage, then something like hurt. But I couldn't trust it anymore. I didn't know which parts of him were real. She sent me letters. I continued. Every year. You kept them from me. I was protecting you. No. You were protecting yourself. I zipped my suitcase and walked past him. He didn't stop me. Back at Olivia's, I unpacked slowly. I wasn't ready to stay long-term, but I wasn't ready to leave either. I told her what happened. She didn't say much, just nodded and handed me a cup of tea. You're not obligated to choose sides, she said. But you are entitled to the truth. That night, I finally opened the letters. One by one I read her words. Birthday wishes. Descriptions of her day. Silly things she saw that reminded her of me. Every line soaked in love and heartbreak. There was one that stood out. I was 16 when she wrote it. I wonder if you're learning to drive. I wonder if you're funny like you used to be. I wonder if you still like purple. I hope someone tells you every day how special you are. Because you are. I cried until I couldn't feel my face. A week later, Carmen called and invited me to visit one of the cafes. I was hesitant, but Olivia encouraged me to go. You should see what you're part of, she said. I went. The place was beautiful, cozy, full of light and laughter. A woman behind the counter handed me a latte and said, "On the house, boss." I smiled awkwardly. Carmen showed me around. She pointed out staff members who had been hired through second chance programs, women who'd left abusive marriages, young people without family support. Your mom built this with them in mind, she said. She knew what it felt like to be erased. She wanted a place where no one felt invisible. I felt something shift inside me. Maybe I had been invisible too all these years. And maybe now I didn't have to be. Carmen offered me a part-time role at the cafe. Nothing major, just helping with inventory, learning the ropes, understanding how things ran. I hesitated at first. The idea of stepping into something that had technically been mine all along but never felt like it. It made my skin crawl. But Olivia didn't pressure me. She just said, "It's here if you want it." So I tried it. The first few days I mostly observed. Watched how Carmen managed things, how the staff talked to each other, how customers responded to the atmosphere. There was a rhythm to the place, something human and grounded. People weren't just buying coffee, they were seen, remembered, known. One afternoon, I was stocking shelves in the back when Carmen came in, sipping from her cup. "You've got her eyes, you know," she said. "Everyone keeps saying that," I replied. "Because it's true. But it's not just looks. It's the way you pause before you speak. The way you notice things others miss. You both carry silence like it's a language." I didn't know how to respond. So I didn't. A few days later, I got a call from my dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then another. Then a text. "I didn't deserve what you said. I raised you. I gave up everything. She poisoned you against me." I didn't respond. Then came the last one. "You think she loves you more than I did? Fine. Good luck when she disappoints you again." I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I believed it, but because a part of me realized he did. He believed he was right. That controlling me was love. That taking away my mother, my identity, my history, was him being a good father. And that terrified me. Later that night, Olivia and I were in the kitchen when I showed her the messages. She read them silently, then handed the phone back. "I can't tell you what to do with that," she said. "I don't want to hate him," I admitted. "But I can't trust him." "You don't owe him either." I looked down. What if I'm like him? What if I become bitter? Controlling? She reached across the table and took my hand. "You are nothing like him. You questioned everything. You left. You chose truth over comfort. That's not bitterness, Chloe. That's bravery." For a moment, I believed her. Over the next few weeks, I settled into a rhythm. I started helping with customer service, managing online orders, sitting in on staff meetings. Carmen joked that I was becoming one of them. Then one day, I found a binder in Olivia's office labeled Initial Vision. Inside were sketches, notes, articles, dreams, pages from the year I was born. It was her plan, her legacy, named after me. At the top of the first page, in messy handwriting, "For Chloe. So you always have a place." I had to sit down. I had spent my whole life believing I was forgotten, disposable, a mistake. But here was proof that, even when she was forced out of my life, Olivia had built something in my name. Not as a symbol. As a lifeline. A way back. I cried again. But this time, the tears didn't come from pain. They came from the overwhelming weight of being wanted. One night, after closing, Carmen pulled me aside. She looked nervous. "There's something Olivia hasn't told you. I think you should hear it." My heart jumped. "What is it?" "You remember that day at the party? When I said, 'Hi, boss'?" "Yeah." She hesitated. "It wasn't just because of the business. Olivia named you sole heir to everything 5 years ago. Legally. Quietly." 5 years ago? Why? She was sick. There was a cancer scare. She didn't tell anyone, but she got her affairs in order just in case. She wanted to make sure if something happened to her, you'd have everything. Even if you never came back. My knees felt weak. "She never told me," I whispered. "Because she didn't want you to feel guilty. She did it out of love." Later that night, I sat in Olivia's living room while she sipped her evening tea. I asked her about it. She nodded. "I was afraid I'd never see you again. I needed to leave something that told you I never stopped being your mother." There were no big declarations after that. No dramatic embraces. Just a shared silence that said everything. Something in me had started to settle. Not a final piece, but a shift. A grounding. I was still grieving what I'd lost. But now, I was also discovering what had been waiting for me all along. The fall season brought new colors to the city, burnt orange leaves, crisp air, and a kind of stillness I hadn't felt in years. I was still waking up every day at Olivia's, still helping at the cafe, still ignoring the occasional text from my father. But inside, something was changing. I no longer felt like I was floating between two versions of myself. I was starting to root. One morning, Carmen handed me the keys to the cafe before opening hours. "You open today," she said. "You're ready." I laughed. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. Don't burn anything." It was a small thing, but it meant everything. I unlocked the front door, turned on the lights, started the coffee machines. Staff filtered in one by one, smiling at me like I belonged. And for once, I felt like I did. A few days later, Olivia and I sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, sipping coffee. She looked at me, then said, "You know, I used to imagine this. You sitting here. Just being here." I smiled. Feels like it was always supposed to happen. It was. Just not the way we thought. Then she turned serious. "Have you thought about what you want to do next?" I nodded. "I think I want to learn more about the business. Really learn. Not just work the counter. I want to understand how you built all this." She exhaled like she'd been holding that breath for years. "I'd like that." So she started showing me everything: documents, spreadsheets, old journals, contracts. We spent long nights at the kitchen table, papers spread everywhere. Olivia had built the business with intention and care, always with the idea that one day I might walk back into her life. It still shocked me how much love she had stored up for a daughter she hadn't seen in 20 years. One afternoon, while going through a filing cabinet, I found a folder labeled "Court Documents." I hesitated. "You can read them," Olivia said quietly. "I kept them in case you ever wanted the full story." Inside were years of petitions, letters from her lawyer, a thick file of medical records explaining her diagnosis and treatment plan from when I was a baby, and then copies of responses from my father's attorney. Lies, character attacks, pictures taken out of context, accusations that made her look unfit, unstable, dangerous. I felt nauseous. "He said you abandoned me," I whispered. "But you were fighting for me the whole time." She nodded. "Until the judge said it was hurting you more than helping. That's when I stopped legally. But I never stopped hoping." I leaned back in the chair, trying to breathe. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about what had been stolen from both of us. 25 years of a relationship that could have existed. A bond that had been severed by a man who believed he was the only one who mattered. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the version of myself that might have grown up here. With her. Surrounded by softness instead of fear. With questions answered instead of avoided. I walked into the kitchen at 2 a.m. and found Olivia already there, sipping tea. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked. I shook my head. Too much in my brain. She gestured to the chair. I sat. "If you could go back," I asked, "would you do anything differently?" She didn't answer right away. Then, I would have fought louder. I would have made more noise. I was so scared of being seen as unstable that I let them silence me. But I didn't know the cost would be this high. I nodded slowly. "You didn't fail me." He did. We sat in silence again. This time, it was less heavy. The next day, I received another message from my father. Just 2 words. "Please talk." I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened a blank message and typed, "You need to know I found everything. The letters. The court documents. The lies. I'm not coming back. I don't hate you, but I can't be part of your world anymore. I deserve the truth. And now I have it." I pressed send. I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't need one. Because for the first time in my life, I felt whole. The holidays approached slowly, gently. For the first time since I could remember, I didn't dread them. There was no tension about which parent to please, no carefully worded dinner conversations, no pretending. At Olivia's house there was warmth. Not just from the fireplace, but in the small routines we shared. Cooking dinner together. Folding laundry. Laughing at old movies. It felt like healing by inches. One evening in early December, I was locking up the cafe when Carmen handed me an envelope. "It came for you at the office," she said. I opened it at the counter, expecting a bank statement or some business paperwork. But it wasn't from any of that. It was a handwritten letter. From Carla. "Dear Chloe, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't blame you if you don't. I just wanted you to know that I saw what happened. Not all of it, but enough. Your father was wrong. He's been wrong for a long time. And I should have spoken up. I told myself I was protecting you by staying quiet, but that was a lie I used to protect myself. I regret it every day. You didn't deserve the silence. I hope you're okay. I hope you're happy. I hope someday you'll forgive me. Love. Carla." I didn't cry. Not right away. I stood there with the letter in my hands, feeling a strange mix of sadness and something close to closure. Carla wasn't blameless, but she wasn't cruel. She'd been complicit out of fear, not malice. That didn't excuse anything, but it explained a lot. I folded the letter and put it in my bag. Later that night, I told Olivia. "She always wanted to say something," she said. I could see it in her eyes, the few times I saw her. But she looked like someone trapped. "She was," I said. "So was I." The day before Christmas, we held a small staff party at the cafe. Just a few hours after closing, with hot cider, music, and laughter echoing off the walls. Carmen made a toast and handed me a framed photo. It was the first cafe Olivia ever opened, taken 25 years ago. In the corner, a sign read, "Welcome, Chloe." My chest tightened. "This was the beginning," Olivia said softly. "The first brick. The first chair. All for you." I couldn't speak. I just nodded, holding the frame close. Later, after everyone left, I stayed behind alone. I walked through the empty cafe, lights dimmed, chairs up on tables. I touched the worn wood of the counter, the shelves we'd stocked together. I looked around at the space she had built, for me, without knowing if I'd ever walk through the door. And then finally, I understood the weight of it. This wasn't just a business. It was a home. That night, I sat with Olivia by the fire. We didn't speak much. Just shared a blanket and listened to the quiet crackling of wood. After a while, I said, "I want to stay. Not just here, in this house. I mean with the cafe. With you. I want to keep building this." She looked at me, her eyes soft. "Then let's do it together." We sat like that for a long time. And I felt something I never thought I'd feel again. Safe. I never got a reply from my father. I think deep down he knew there was nothing left to say. And maybe silence was the most honest thing he could offer me now. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need him to apologize. What I needed was the truth. And I had it. In January, I officially took on a management role at the cafe. My name was added to the documents, to the vision, to the future. One afternoon, I stood at the window looking out at the street. A young girl passed by with her mother, laughing, holding hands. The mother reached down to fix the girl's scarf. The girl giggled, her face lighting up. And I smiled. Because I wasn't the girl in the window anymore. I was the woman inside. And I had found my way home. If you like stories like these, click like, subscribe, activate the bell and send it to someone you think will also like it.